I wanted to say 8 things about public policy in times of crisis. I think these are an important 8 points that are often overlooked. Number 1, behavioral change. When some news of a crisis emerges and that information is spread amongst people, people will naturally change their behavior in response to that information. Now, many things they do might be rational and well motivated, but other things they do might be based on misinformation or misunderstanding of information or misunderstanding of risk. But whatever it is, as soon as a crisis and that information is disseminated, behavioral change happens. Number 2, the media. The media and the way in which they cover a healthcare crisis or any public policy crisis will further change the behavior of people. That the way it's presented, how it is framed, how risk is conveyed to people will further alter the way in which people choose their own fate. And to a large degree, the public policy question here is how might you get the media to do a better job of covering the event? And there are lots of things we could do. We could try to educate reporters about risk and probability, teach them principles of good journalism and good covering. But there's a lot you can't do because you can't control all the ways in which people get information. And so when it comes to behavioral change from media reporting of an event, some of that will be out of the hands of policymakers. Number 3, governments make policies. Governments will respond to crisis and they will make policies against or for or to minimize the damage of that crisis, but some of those policies may be a blunder. Number 4, is it enforced or is it rewarded? When you make a policy and you want to change the way in which people behave, are you punishing them? If so, how? How do you enforce the policy? Or are you rewarding them for following your policy? And if so, how? What is the reward? But the nature of the enforcement and what happens during the enforcement is all baked into the public policy question. Number 5, is it a restriction or is it a resource? Restrictions are easy for policymakers to do because they often involve the powers that are already conveyed to policymakers. They involve apparatus that's already present. But resources are often a key factor in changing behavior in a positive way, in a way that is accepted, in a way that is sustained. So whether or not you use restrictions or resources is an important policy consideration. 6, unintended consequences and the net effect. It is easy to believe that what you've done is going to make things better. After all, that's why you did it. But that doesn't mean it is so. And the key fact here is you need to be very cognizant of the predicted and known effects, but also the unanticipated effects, the unanticipated consequences. And they can even surprise you. And that's why you need people at the table who may even disagree with your policy to help you keep an eye on those things. Because if you don't have those people at the table, you will fall into your blind spots. You will not see what you don't want to see, and you will just carry through your policy, even if it has a detrimental net effect that you do not fully appreciate. Number 7, new developments. Inevitably, in the course of a crisis, there will be new developments. There'll be new information. There'll be new tools. And how you handle those new developments is a critical mark of a policymaker. 1, you want to prove that the new tools that you want to offer are in fact beneficial. It's not enough that they make sense or that it is something to do. You really want to know it's the right thing to do and it truly is beneficial. And in whom is it beneficial? And once you know that, you want to encourage the uptake of it in the target groups. You want to get more people in that group that benefits to do it. But you also don't want to push it so hard in groups where they're not going to get the benefit. And then, how are you going to compel the uptake? What tools are you going to use? And again, it comes back to the original principles. Are you going to give carrots or use sticks? Are you going to reward it or are you going to punish? How will you enforce that? What are the unanticipated consequences of the way in which you enforce the new tool? You foster the new tool. And number 8, the last point, the truth about public health and medicine. And the truth, the really tough truth, is that a lot of what we think helps, a lot of what is plausible, a lot of what people, even very smart people, think must work, often doesn't work. It's often merely seductive in the moment. And human beings are great at letting ourselves believe that our actions and our will can overcome anything. But a lot of the natural world is the way in which it's going to proceed. And what we can do is maybe modestly steer the ship. But to do that, you really need to keep an open mind, to be open to the fact that your policies may in fact be misguided. Some of them may be detrimental. How will you measure that? How will you track that? And if you don't have those systems in place, not only will you be steering the ship in the wrong direction, but you might not know that for a long, long time. Now, these are 8 principles of health policy in the time of crisis. It's to remind us that there's so much outside of what we can control, but the things we can control are the top-down, larger policy strategies. And it is not intuitively clear what is the right answer in many cases in policy in the time of crisis. So, these are some very general thoughts about policy in times of crises in general. If you enjoy this, you'll get more of this on this channel. Like, subscribe, follow, comment, leave a message. Until next time.